Hello people, this is me drawing a two-tone drawing to try and not overwork my paintings. I think I need to focus more on the bigger shapes. So I got this idea from Sinix. I forgot his name, but I'm gonna look it up and put it in the description. He was saying to do a bunch of practice just looking at a painting and trying to just do dark tones and light tones, so just the shadows and the lights, because that'll really help you get the forms of the shape. And I really wanted to try and challenge myself with this to see if I could show the shape of the form with just two colors, because I think I rely too much on, or I just can't stop myself from changing the colors. And I don't know if it's really over blending, but just trying to get too accurate with the colors. And I want it to be more of a kind of a sketchy feel anyways. So sorry, I'm recording this in my car in the Starbucks parking lot, so if you hear stuff, that's what it is. But yeah, so I blocked in her hair, because that's obviously the darkest point. So I wanted to do that first, and it will set like the size of the painting. And then what I was really struggling with is this whole picture is pretty dark, but I didn't want to make it all really dark, because then you wouldn't see the shape at all. So that's where the challenge really comes in, is deciding what part you're going to do dark and what part you're going to do light. And so like for that bottom square of the neck, I don't really think I needed that, because like if you squint your eyes pretty hard, you don't really see that bottom square of the neck. You really only see that one in the middle. So I think maybe I could have just left that all dark too, because that didn't really, and that was another thing he was saying, that only include it if it'll help with the form. And if it's not going to help with the form, just combine those lines. You want the least amount of lines as possible. So yeah, but I think it looks okay, because it's just a box. It's nothing too complicated. And I think maybe it did help a little bit to show the line of her shirt. You could see where I drew in the neckline. So maybe it did help. This was actually really fun. I thought it was going to be really difficult, but I think I'm going to do some more of these, because I think I'm going to start my paintings off like this, honestly, just getting the basic forms and then working from there, instead of trying to immediately go to some color or detail. Because I do want it to be more painterly. I want to have less detail in some parts and more detail in other parts, instead of the whole thing looking like detail. And that's what I'm kind of struggling with. I can do that with real paint, but on this digital painting, I don't know, I've just been going at it. So I blocked in her whole eye, because it's all in shadow, so I figured to just block it all in. Same with that shadow on the nose, just blocked it all in. And then this eye, blocked in the eye and the eyebrow, because yeah. And so as you can see in the picture, the eye and the forehead are kind of like a similar shade. They're both pretty dark on the left side of that forehead, but I didn't think that would show the form, so I just blocked in the eyes, because obviously if you show the eyes in the painting, you already can tell that it's a person, and you can already start to see the form. So you just kind of have to make that decision of what you want to keep and what you have to take away. It doesn't have to look exactly like the painting, which is good, because that's what art is, right? You can decide what you want to keep and what you want to take. Here, I think I made that shadow on the nose a little too low. It definitely should have been higher up on her face. And for that, I made the lips too low too. I think I ended up changing that. But I kind of like that blockiness. I didn't want to use too small of a brush, because I really was trying to stay away from detail. So yeah, I just kept that little bit of a thick brush to just kind of block it in. I didn't want to get right here. It's starting to look like a Kim Possible lip. I like it. It looks cool. See that part of the nose where I just put that shadow, just that one line? That's what he was saying to stay away from. Try and stay away from just lines and do more like shapes. And I don't know if I took that away or not, but I don't think that was working. I think maybe it looked like a nostril of a nose instead of like the shadow, so it wasn't really helping with the overall shape. And then as you can tell, that eye, I kind of curved it a little bit so you can see the roundness of the eye socket. And then yeah, so I ended up bringing the chin down more so the lips weren't so far down on the face. And then, so right now I'm just using the eraser. I didn't want to go in with a different color. I literally put the background color in and then only used black and then just erased it for the highlights. Oh, and then this is, so I finished that two-tone, and then I was like, why don't I try and throw in like 2 or 3 more tones, make like a monochrome, because when I do want to do some paintings, this is what I'm going for. I'm obviously going to have more than 2 tones, so this is me going in and trying to do more of a painting of this, still not like finished or anything, not with any detail. I still didn't do any detail. I just wanted to throw in the other shapes that I see. So obviously the brightest part is on that forehead, so that little box on the forehead, so I needed to block out the rest of that forehead. And yeah, I just chose a shade that's a little bit darker. I think when I first went in, I chose a really dark shade, but compared to the hair, the forehead's still really light compared to the hair. So that's what I was trying to see. I went in darker, and I think that might be a little too dark because the forehead is still a closer color to the highlight than it is to the hair. I left that room on the side because I'm going to do an even darker spot right there. And then this is where I was a little struggling because honestly that part in the forehead is almost the same color as the eye sockets. But if I colored all the same color, I'm going to lose the form. So I decided to keep the eye sockets black to keep that form in there, even though it's not necessarily accurate to the picture. That's, what I had to do to keep the form. Sorry, I'm feeling a little sick. And that side of the nostril, it's looking like a nostril. See, I took it away to try. It still looks like a nostril to me, but it's okay. I like how this turned out at the end. See, that's the nostril. That little black dot is just the nostril. Maybe I could have just like done a dark area on the side of the nostril, even though you don't really see a dark area on the side of the nostril, to just give it some form, because I don't really need to show the form of that wrinkle right there. So that could have been something that I did differently. I like what I did right here because I did like a curve shape, so you can really see that the chin protrudes out farther than the cheek. And did some shading on the lip. So yeah, the chin and the forehead and the cheekbone are definitely the highlights of this painting. So that's what I want to leave the brightest color. And then this color right here, I think I did good because it's really dark. It's almost black. When I was drawing it, I almost filled that part in black, but the reason why I left it a lighter color in the two-tone was to show the form of the head and how wide her head actually is. Didn't want to make that whole side black. So, but now that I'm doing more colors, I made it dark because it is really dark, and I can still show the form because it is not the same color as the black. Now right here, I think I could have used a bigger brush. I think I'm doing like too much detailed, but I'm still doing bigger shapes. No lines is what he kept saying, like stay away from lines. If you see a line, look at what's next to it, the shapes next to it. See if you can try and combine that shape. So what I did right here, I took that side, which honestly, I feel like the side of the nose should have been kept a dark color because it is really dark. But I kind of like what I did here because now I'm showing the curve of the eyelid. And I think you can see even more form here, keeping the eye black, even though the white part of the eye is lighter than that shadow. I didn't want to add too many lines in there, so I just kept the whole eye black and then showed the form by putting in that darker color around the eyelid. I took out that box, that square on the neck, and moved it over a little bit because it was just too far in the center. Did I add another one? I think I did. So I have 2 colors going on the neck. I put in that shadow on the side of the face. And so in the picture, really, it is almost black and you really can't see that side of the face at all. But I think I ended up bringing that shadow out a little bit more just to show the face. I know I can't really see the form in the picture, but I wanted it to look a little more aesthetically pleasing and show the form. So I ended up bringing that shadow color out even further just to show the form. I'll put 2 tones on that highlight because it is a little 2-tone. That whole side of the face is really dark. Honestly, like if you squint your eyes, pretty much the left half of her face is all really dark, all the same color. And so I feel like I could have been even looser with this and chose even less colors. But I like the way it turned out, and even though it's not exactly accurate to the shadows in the picture, I think it's looking good. And I think that the placement of the shadows that I chose really are helping show the form. And then as you can see, there's kind of like a highlight on the nose that I didn't add, and I think maybe I could have added that to show that it was the higher point, because at the end the nose just kind of looks like a blob and it doesn't really have a lot of form. So maybe I could have added that highlight to show that it is sticking up further than the side of the nose. And I don't know what's going on with that crease. I don't know why I still have that in there. I mean, it's okay. It shows form. It shows that skin right there is curving down, but it is just a line. And that's really what I wanted to stay away from, was just the lines. See, I think it's a little too much detail, but still not a lot of detail, which is good. Also, like, I really like this color. This is one of my favorite colors to paint with, like the brick earthy tones. I'm really into earthy tones and warm colors. So what is that, before and after? Oh no. Made that eye socket a little bit bigger. Yeah, I did notice that hair did come in more on that side. So I went back to the black layer, the layer with only black, and I added some more there. Oh, and then this is when I put the other colors on the neck, which I think I liked how that turned out, because then you can really separate the hair from the neck, and it wasn't so obvious because the colors are really close, but when you look at it you can still see the separation, and I feel like that gave it even more form. So if you don't think it's going to give it form, then probably avoid it, but if it will help the form, then go ahead and put it in. And then I do like that box on the bottom because it shows the separation from the skin and the neck. And then yeah, so I ended up showing more form. I kind of just imagined how far her cheek would come out and just put that in there just to show a little bit more form. I feel like I said form like 100 times. Yeah, I noticed the background color was darker than the highlights on her face, so I had to make that a little bit darker. I made the shirt darker. And yeah, I really like how it turned out. It's a 2-tone. I like how both of them look. They both look cool. They both have form. That one obviously has way more form, but I really like both of them. I think they came out good. This is me. Oh my god, just watch this monstrosity. I was like, oh yes, like this is the original picture I was gonna do first, but then I noticed the other one had a really definite separation between shadows and highlights, and I was like, no, that'll probably be better to practice because it's more obvious, and it was. This one was really hard because, as you can see, I don't know, like I tested out by squinting my eyes. The whole painting is pretty much the same tone, the same brightness, except for the highlight on her face and her arm. So it was really difficult to decide, what am I going to leave highlights, what am I going to leave darks, because it's all kind of like a mid-tone, like her hair, the background, the shirt, the hand. It's all kind of like the same darkness, and I didn't want to just make it all the same color, because I feel like I really wouldn't see any definition without literally having to draw the lines of the nose or the lips and the mouth. And that's what I ended up kind of doing, because yeah, it was just so hard. So I think maybe I could have made a shape around her head and not, like, maybe separated her head from the background instead of just making that all black, because it's kind of, I don't know. I still think it looks cool. You can still tell it's a person because it's a face coming out of the darkness, so you can still see form, which is good. Obviously, you can't really tell she's in water, but that's kind of hard to show with just two tones. And this right here with these colors, the green and black, this was reminding me of the other girl on Kim Possible, the villain. She wears like green and black. She has black hair. Yeah, getting Kim Possible vibes from these paintings. My husband said it reminds him of Danny Phantom, which is also accurate. I like how I did the hands though. I feel like that really showed some form in the painting, because there isn't a lot going on here. I did end up doing a full monochromatic painting with more colors, and it just looked so terrible, honestly. It was just so hard to differentiate. So if you guys are going to try this, really choose a picture that has definite shadows and lights, because if it's all kind of like a mid-tone, it's going to be really hard to decide if you haven't already done this a bunch of times more. Like, if this is your first time, choose something that's obvious, that what's the shadows and what's the highlights. So this, I think this looks cool right here. You can tell it's a face. You can tell it's looking at you. You can tell that that's the hand on the face. And then this part right here, I think that's all it needed to separate the hair. And then I just started messing it all up. And that even kind of looks like it's in water a little bit. And then right here, I'm just doing too many lines. I think I should have just done one whole color for the hair, maybe some dark spots at the roots. Instead of doing that weird, it looks like there's goo dripping off of her head. I don't know. It looks like she just got slimed. I did too many highlights, because if you really look at it, the highlight's only on the right side of the face, so I really should have only done that highlight color on the right side. So look, yeah, I give up, and then that's where I feel like I should have stopped right there. That's perfect. It separates her head from the background. It only has a couple colors. That looks good.